don't laugh at my mask, man. But that's the mask, man. And I wrote in cursive, so you might not be able to read it. But my three words are vulnerability, the process, and the happiness. Um, because for me, from a vulnerability standpoint, the reason I put that was because a lot of times the thing that connected us was my content, right? And that's the thing that's had put me in a lot of spaces with dope people. But a lot of times I think that people think I create this content to operate as if I'm superior to you, as if I'm telling you what to do because I'm perfect and you're not. But a lot of people don't understand that the topics and the reason I speak with such passion and love when I'm creating is because I'm the one dealing with a lot of those things that I'm telling you about. Right. So for instance, we connected on the piece of mental health and what really matters and what's happiness is because I lived that. I saw people that my pops who I love dearly, he put money and materialistic things before his family. So then it damaged our relationship, right? And it makes me focus on things that really don't matter. And sometimes I put my daughter on the back burner, even when I don't try to. I put my relationship on the back burner, even when I don't try to. So I take those things that I'm feeling and the things I'm thinking about, and I get them out the best way I know how, which is through speaking, which is through content, and I share it with the world because I know somebody else out there is feeling what I'm feeling. Because we think we're so different as people, but we're not. Somebody is going through the exact same thing. It just has a different face on it. It just has a different mask on it, but it's the same thing.
Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you joined us. Today's guest is Will Z. Tidwell. First off, Will is from Little Rock, Arkansas. And our conversation really started off with me just being really reflective about him being from the town where my family's from. I haven't talked much on this podcast about my uncle. My uncle was kind of that uncle who spent the most time with me, I think, growing up. So I knew him the most, but also he just had an interesting edge about him. I was a little boy with no father. And every time we would go to Arkansas, I remember my uncle had this van. He had this old school van with like velvet inside and carpet, shag carpet. He had a bed in the back of the van. It was back in the 70s. And I'll never forget that van. It was just like, you don't drink no water in the back of that van. You don't do nothing. You just sit there. But it was decked out. And my uncle was so cool, right? And he was a fireball, right? I mean, I've seen him get upset, but I really learned a lot from my uncle. And he passed away last year, or 2019, and it was really hard on me. It was really hard. I found out I was at a rites of passage event. I found out the weekend that we recorded for the Lisa Ling "This Is Life," and I happened to just be on Facebook, and people were saying, or responding to my mom's post like, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that. Condolences." I'm like, condolences? What the heck? Now I'm in the middle of the woods. I only happened to look at my phone that night just by accident. I went in and I'm like, and she said, "I can't believe my brother's gone." I'm like, "Which brother?" So then I'm not trying to search and it was my uncle. It was my uncle Derek, and I was blown away. And one of the things that we talk about in this podcast, it was just me remembering my uncle. Not only thinking about Little Rock and where my grandmother is, and where I spent kind of the first year of my life when my mom was in college. Um, I spent a lot of summers there and a lot of Christmases there sometimes because we were the only ones in California. All the rest of the family was still in Arkansas. And this conversation just brought up a lot of memories of being back in Little Rock, but also a family. And Will talks about uh, the stories that he shares in his podcast. Z speaks about the real stuff that he goes through. It's not stuff that he's making up to try and tell a story. It's not stuff that he's just like thinking about, how do I engage people in this thing? He talks about stories that he actually goes through in his own life. And just recently I've been getting more clear about the messages that I'm trying to share with people when I'm talking about my other video content. I realize I need to be talking to educators. I need to be talking to teachers. Because as a teacher, as a former educator, I'm really clear that there's so much going on, so much that was going on with me as a teacher that I didn't get to talk about. There's so much I know that's going on with students that they're not talking to their teachers about, and that I can possibly be a person who helps to engage those conversations. So this conversation with Will, I was inspired by him. I was inspired by his work. You'll hear me talk about being inspired by his lighting. Like when I watched one of his first videos, which was shared by the Confess Project, which he knows, Brother Lorenzo. Like it was an interesting connection of like all these people who I didn't know each other, but also right there in my own hometown, I mean, I'm from Oakland, California, but I call Little Rock my other home. That's where my family is. I said, look, your lighting is amazing. Right? Like part of me didn't want to say it because it's like, but I was like clear that he had amazing lighting in the video. And so I was like, I need your help. He said, just call me anytime. I'll help you figure it out. No worries. I'm like, and how oftentimes I'll start with I and then we'll make it more global. How often do I want to ask somebody for help, but don't want to seem as weak, as not being able to just go to Google and figure it out? But sometimes even though Google has a lot of answers, it takes a long time to find the answers. It's not always just as easy as just going and say how to have good lighting. Because I've looked at lots of things and I've have a light here, the light here, and a light here. And being able to just ask him, I would love to ask him for help. And he said, yeah, of course. How quickly that he could help me with something that I've been like thinking about for a long time, for, months and months. And how often that mentoring is like that. I mean, I run a mentoring organization and I think I don't reach out for too many mentors for myself. And so this conversation was really beautiful. And I hope that you enjoy this conversation. I hope that you learn something. Please share it with somebody who you feel could benefit from this conversation. I'm so glad to meet Brother Will and to just learn more about his story and his journey. I think you'll enjoy it too. Thank you for being a part of the Taking Off the Mask podcast. Please enjoy today's show.
Man, Shorty, thank you for having me, man. It's an honor, man. We finally got a chance to do this, so I'm happy, man.
I've been like watching your stuff, and I was telling you that I learned about your work from the Confess Project, and right. I would like you just to introduce yourself. That's how I first learned about you, and I've been following you ever since. And so, will you let folks know what you're up to, what you do, and then we're gonna jump into these masks.
Okay. Well, yeah, man. Like you said, my name is just Will Z. Tidwell. Originally born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas, man. Proud native of the city. Man, and my true passion and the true foundation of everything I represent is community outreach. I mean, that's a big piece of who I am. So really developing and coming up with unique, initiatives and programming for the youth, for the less fortunate, for young men, for just my people in general. Which kind of sprouted into other things, really a lot of my different talents, from the speaking to the writing and all of those different things. And so what I did was just create a platform where no matter what I'm doing, whether it's an initiative, a program, speaking, or writing, content, whatever, my goal is to use my gifts and my platform to really, provide resources and things for people to impact their life in a positive way, And so everything we do, that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, man, that's a little bit about me.
Oh man. Well, I thank you for that. I don't think I didn't know that you were also from Little Rock. So
yeah. Born and raised.
Oh man. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
That's where so my uncle, my grandmother still lives there over by by the airport. She's on those streets right by First Baptist Church. That's where her and they're trying to push all those people out of there so they can expand the airport and more. But she's held on to that house for a lot of years,
So she's over there in the Fush Dam, East End area. Over that
way.
Right.
Yeah. That's right. Between Roosevelt and 9th.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So she right there in the heart of the city, man. She ain't going nowhere.
Oh, they're trying. They're trying. The people with the big pockets, they're trying.
They're trying to cut her a check to get her to leave, ain't they?
That's right. All her and her best friend next door, they're just like, we're not going nowhere. So thank you. Man, thank you.
100%.
I'm glad. I'm glad there's even another connection right there. See, I didn't even know that part. So I'm
Yep.
glad to hear that, man.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
look, we get a chance on this conversation to really talk about these masks, and I think one of your videos that I watched recently from about um, about brokenness, right? Like
Mhm.
there's one that really resonates a lot, and how beauty comes out of that, right? And
Right.
so I'm just wanted to say I'm excited to be able to do this, and so we're gonna just make the mask right now together, and then we're gonna share it, and then the conversation will go where it's supposed to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm following your
All right.
lead, man. Let's do it.
All right. So here we go. You just fold your paper in half, and then we're going to use the left side and the right side as a way of describing the left as being the front and the right as being the back.
Okay.
So on the left side, just write front.
Okay.
And the right side, right back.
All right. I got it.
Yep.
All right, man. And just a warning for your followers: I cannot draw. I cannot draw. The closest I'm getting to artistic is writing. I can write. That's what I do. I can't draw at all. So please do not hate this man's show because of my lack of artistic abilities. This is a dope platform.
Man.
So
well, I can't write, so maybe we gotta start trading because
we're
I
gonna
can't
help each
draw
other in
either.
those areas. We're gonna help each other out there, man.
All right, fantastic. Well, the way we do it is with the first step is to draw a mask. So whatever you draw is perfect, and just know that I'm not an artist either. So please don't be looking for what you see on this paper. You'll be like, "That's your drawing."
Man,
so
listen.
Whatever you draw is gonna be perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna do that now. Okay.
For those of you that are listening, you can make your mask online at 100kmasks.com, and you can be a part of this movement. Will and I are drawing ours on pieces of paper, which is how this activity first started. And so he and I get to do it together live, and you get to do it anonymously on that site, 100kmasks.com. And we look forward to you exploring your own mask as well.
Do I need to put the face and the nose and all that too?
Nope. Masks they have so many different representation, so sometimes they're just almost plain, right? Sometimes they're very ornament. Whatever you draw is going to be perfect, and it's exactly what comes through you.
Okay.
All right. So the first step is to draw a mask, and then the second step is to think of the mask as a representation of you, right? So if that mask was a representation of you, what are 3 qualities or characteristics that you gladly let the world see about you? What are 3 qualities or characteristics? And you write those anywhere on the left side. 3 qualities or character.
Am I writing it on the front or right on the back?
You can write on the front. These are going to be the front of the mask. Yep. Qualities that you gladly let the world see. Qualities, characteristics you gladly let the world see.
Okay. One more. Let me see. That's kind of tough, man.
If you only got 2, then 2 is okay.
Yeah, I got a third one, I think.
And
I'm sure I'll think of something deeper later, and I'll be mad that I didn't think of that dope one. You know what I mean? Like when I get off this call, we'll be like, "Man, I should have wrote this," but I got 3.
There it is. But and imagine that our mask may change at all different times. Right now in this moment, maybe there's just 2 you're thinking of, right? And we know that as masks of our own self, we sometimes have to change them based on where we are, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So now we're gonna move to the back, and this is part is very different than the front, because the back of the mask are things that we normally don't let people see, things that we normally don't talk about, or we don't get a chance to talk about. So the back of the mask are things that we normally don't let people see. So if you can think of 3 that you're willing to write there.
I wrote those pretty fast.
Okay. You're okay. I'm still writing mine. Oh man. Okay. All right. Well, this is where it begins. This is the beginning of the next say phase of the show. So you as a guest get to decide who goes first. Either you go first or I go first. And you'll share the front, or you tell me I'll share the front first, and then we'll share the back, and then we'll kind of let it roll from there.
I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay. Okay.
I'll let you go first, man.
Okay. All right. Well, get ready for this drawing, and these. Okay, here we go.
Man, you
So
get ready.
here's the front. That's the mask.
I don't feel so bad anymore.
There you go. See, I told you, the drawing is just a representation, right? So here are
Yeah,
the words here's the things I gladly let people see: hard
yeah,
work, caring, and funny. Um, and I think that when I think of, I've been trying to like use different words and like really just get like present to right now. Yesterday, I
mm,
was with a group of youngsters in our program, some boys, and when I'm with them, they're so silly, right? And so like they bring out the silly in me. And so I like being funny with them. Like it's not always we play games first so we can get a lot of that energy out. So when we come to circle time, they got space. And I realized like because I'm in the office all the time, I rarely get to do that. I meet with them once a month. So I realize how silly not only they are, how silly some of our boys are, but also how silly that like I used to be when I have more time to be funny and silly, right? Like now I'm in the
100%.
office at the desk and always working and very hardworking and serious. Like sometimes you may not even think like if I'm just not paying attention to how I'm looking, I look like I'm mad maybe, but I'm
Yeah,
not. I'm just intense.
100%.
And caring. I had a conversation with a young man last night, high schooler. Second week of school, already struggling, already like disconnecting, and it's like, okay, we gotta find your fire. We gotta help. I can't find your fire. I can tell you what I see in you, but trying to help him. And so realizing like, I had stuff to be doing, but there was nothing more important than me having that conversation with that young man. Really, once he told me he was struggling right now. So like I think I'm really caring, and only people who maybe really know me know that. So
100%.
yeah,
100%.
that's the front of my mask.
Well, that was dope, man. And I walk a similar path, which is why I think this show was perfect for me to, be able to be a part of. So don't laugh at my
Right.
mask, man. But that's the mask, man. And I write in cursive, so you might not be able to read it. But my three words are vulnerability, the process, and the happiness. Um, because for me, from a vulnerability standpoint, the reason I put that was because a lot of times the thing that connected us was my content, right? And that's the thing that's had put me in a lot of spaces with dope people. But a lot of times I think that people think I create this content to operate as if I'm superior to you, as if I'm telling you what to do because I'm perfect and you're not. But a lot of people don't understand that the topics and the reason I speak with such passion and love when I'm creating is because I'm the one dealing with a lot of those things that I'm telling you about. Right. So for instance, so we connected on the piece of mental health and what really matters and what's happiness is because I lived that. I saw people that my pops who I love dearly, he put money and materialistic things before his family. So then it damaged our relationship, right? And it makes me focus on things that really don't matter. And sometimes I put my daughter on the back burner, even when I don't try to. I put my relationship on the back burner, even when I don't try to. So I take those things that I'm feeling and the things I'm thinking about, and I get them out the best way I know how, which is through speaking, which is through content, and I share it with the world because I know somebody else out there is feeling what I'm feeling. Because
Yeah.
we think we're so different as people, but we're not. Somebody is going through the exact same thing. It just has a different face on it. It has a different mask on it, but it's the same
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And in the process, I think the process kind of ties directly to the vulnerability because you know social media has tricked us, man. Social media and these different things has messed us up in the head to where when you get on here, all you see is wins and I'm making 6K a month. I make six figures a month and I can teach you how to do this. And it's like, it's just win, success. I'm winning, I'm
Yeah.
doing this. And that's just not realistic. And I think that is why we see such a high spike in mental health issues and people committing suicide and people doing all these different things, because nobody shows the process anymore. Nobody talks
Yeah.
about how they were low just Monday and how they didn't meet the quota all week for their business. Nobody talks about that stuff. I just had a
Yeah.
conversation yesterday where I didn't make quota for my business but one day last week.
Mm.
Most people are not going to get on here and talk about that online or on an
Yeah.
interview. But
Yeah.
but but yeah, true enough, I do have money in the bank where we're good, we're not stressing, we're blessed, right? Cool. But we didn't make quota but one day out of 7 days last week. We didn't make quota. And nobody talks about that. And I think that if more people took the time to be real and be transparent about that type of stuff, not just business, but life in general, the
Yeah.
depression, their anxiety, all of those different things will be a lot better as a community and as a people, right? And then lastly, just
Yeah.
happiness. Happiness, you know, happiness comes in different forms to different people. And for
Yeah.
me, despite the things that we deal with, despite the things that we're going through, when you really sit back and think about it, man, we're so blessed. We're so
Yeah.
blessed, man. It's people that were, I don't know if you saw it or not. These people in other countries are hanging on the planes trying to escape their situation to come to a better thing, and we're complaining about simple things. And so I look at it like I'm so blessed, and I'm just happy. So yeah, man, those are my three words, and I know that was kind of long winded, but yeah, those are my three things, man.
Man, no, that was perfect. And I think when you talked about that, like the idea of happy in terms of like, when do I get to talk about the other stuff, right? When I put myself in, I was listening to somebody say something the other day, and I don't know what post I saw. It was like, do I ignore my intuition
Mm-hmm.
with logic? My
Mm-hmm.
intuition says I'm feeling this thing, so but I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel it, so I'm a logic that, oh, it's supposed to happen, right? It's supposed to happen. And I think I sometimes go the opposite, where I just I'm like, okay, I make everything happy,
Mm-hmm.
and I sometimes ignore dealing with some of the real stuff, right? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh. And then it hits that level of load where you're like, and that's the back part. I'm actually it's gonna
It's the
come in
bad.
right here. So
100%.
um so
100%.
so here's my back. Family history, uh worry, and
Mm-hmm.
am I enough?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I think about these, I mean, when I wrote the last one, I was like, that's it's not an everyday thought, but sometimes it comes in, right? Like, our
Mm-hmm.
organization is growing, and I'm I I'm a hard worker, so I'm clear about that. But sometimes I'm like, can I grow it to what I dream of it being? Like, do I have all of the stuff, the right stuff? I know I'm willing to work hard. I'm willing to learn what I don't know, but do I need to be learning social media and making films and video and hiring people and firing people, and like, how much can I actually keep learning to like keep things moving, and
100%.
when you talked about quota, when you talked about that, man, I appreciate that, because I've been like trying to share more of this journey. Like, it's not always pretty. I've ordered these games for these educators. The shipping company is tripping right now. Like, they took money really well, and right now, like, school's already started. These games are supposed to be already in these teachers' hands, and we don't even have them in our office. So I'm like, I got to make a video to tell people your games are not coming, right? And I'm like, oh gosh. And then they go, and it just feeds into the other. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not making the cards, so it's not my fault, but it's always my responsibility, right? So
100%.
as the leader,
100%.
and so
Man.
yeah, so it dances, and I think that when I wrote family history there, I was like, when one of the last times I was in Arkansas, 2 years, a year and a half ago, before the pandemic, was for my uncle's funeral, um, and it was in Little Rock, and I just felt like there was such a hard trip, because I wanted to reach out for help around dealing with it, and I was trying to be strong for my family, right? I'm trying to be strong, grandson helping my grandmother, and I was hurting, man. I was hurt. It was my uncle, right? I got a couple uncles, but that was Uncle
That
Derek,
was
right?
that
Like,
was the uncle. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it was just sad. It was just sad, and it was sad because of some of the story, right? Like how it happened, who did it, like all that, and it's just like, but no one really talks about it. So everyone is like, trying to process, but no one's trying to talk about it. And I'm like, I process by talking, you know. And so I was carrying it. I've been carrying it. Like, even I want to still find out, has anybody know? But like, Michael was killed by his son, right? And part of me is like, I'm wondering about him. Like, what is now that he needs to go through with his own life and his own mind and his life, that he's going to be probably in jail for the rest of his life for killing his father? Like, is anybody going to visit him? Like, is anybody in the family? Like, this, it's just all the things that go on in my mind sometimes that I'm like, I guess I'm supposed to just navigate this by myself. I guess I'm supposed to just like process this alone, right? And so those are some of the things that I don't really talk about. So when you mentioned Ark and Little Rock, I'm like, I felt compelled to name my Uncle Derek, who I miss a lot, you know. So that's
man.
that's
I actually heard about that story, man. Was that recent? That was recent when he killed his father.
Yeah, before the pandemic. So like it was like I don't even I can't even. It feels like yesterday, because the pandemic, I almost lost that whole year, right? So
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that, man. I definitely remember that story because it was like, because it didn't really get a lot of airtime. It really didn't get a lot of airtime. It was like they touched on it and it was like, okay, that, you know what I mean? Like it didn't, and that's something I was like, wow, like, you know what I mean? You just couldn't imagine. So I'm sorry to hear that, man. Man, that's heavy. My back. Again, I write in cursive, so you guys might not be able to read it. It's failures, the truth, depression, anxiety, and fear. They're kind of all in one. I feel like they kind of fall under the same category. The failures. It can be kind of contradicting, because it seems like I'm saying that on the front, I don't mind showing you the process. I don't mind showing you those things. But at the same time, again, I think because of the way our minds have been molded, especially now these days, when we fail, we're so ashamed of that. We're so scared to talk about that we might have messed up, that things didn't go right, that things didn't go like we planned, right? Like we wanted to do these things and we wanted to have the whatever, and it just didn't pan out that way. And for me, sometimes I find myself in a space where I'm very ashamed of my failures, right? I'm very I become out of touch and forget that failure is a part of it all, that I am human, that I am imperfect. And so sometimes I hide those things. And I forget that you're human just like me. You make failures just like me. And I don't know if you ever had a chance to see this video, but one of my favorite videos today, and it's not even one that went viral, was one where I talked about how we judge each other so easily. We talk about each other so easily, we point the finger at each other so easily, for the different things that, that happen in our life. And we fail to remember that you made the same mistake at some point in your life. Right. And so that's to me, that's one of the things I tend to hide, because again, around me, it feels like everybody is so perfect, but I have to remember that that's not the case. And just like I try to hide my failures a lot of times because it can be embarrassing, a lot of other people do the same thing in their mind, but they just may never admit it.
That's right. That's right.
And then the truth. Truth is that on the internet, it seems like I'm so perfect and I have it all together, but I don't. And I'm afraid sometimes to admit that. I'm afraid to, walk in that. But what I've learned over time is that the more that you're willing to lean into the truth and be vulnerable, like I mentioned on the front, when I actually choose to do that, that's when I perform the best. When I come from a real, raw, open, transparent space, that's when I do the best in everything I'm doing. So, but I hide it oftentimes, again, because when people have already put this image of you in their head, you almost feel obligated to live up to that, but you don't have to. It's a choice,
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. And then last but not least, just that depression and that anxiety and that fear. Again, when you have to be that superhuman and that superhero for so many people. You have to be a father, a boyfriend. You have to be a leader, a business owner, a boss for your people that work under you. You have to be the leader of your household. You have to take care of your parents. You have to be all of these different people for so many people. That's scary for a man in America, having to have so many titles and so much falling on your back, but we can never admit it because people are going to look at us crazy as men or as people in general for saying that we are afraid, right? And And I think the oftentimes that the depression and the fear and the anxiety comes in is when, again, we have this certain expectation of what we wanted to happen, and these certain expectations that other people want us to live up to, and it doesn't happen. Then the depression hits us in our face. Or when we go around pretending to be strong for so long, and we barely holding on, the depression hits us in our face. Or we pretend to have to be this person again to be validated by other people that don't even matter.
Yeah.
The depression hits us in our face. And I think that's something that I hide. I try to validate other people's opinions sometimes, not even knowing. I try to hold all of this weight on my shoulder and never try to admit that it's heavy. I try to be all of these titles and try to please all of these people. And I forget about me sometimes. And if you ever go back and look at my content, everything I just said, I say that on my social media, but it's about me. But I share it because I know somebody else can feel it. And so, yeah, those are my three, man. I think those are three, and something that needs to be talked about a little bit more. You know, how, and if you really just paid attention to everything I just said, the front really aligns with the back. And to be honest, it just depends on the day. One day I might show it to you, one day I might not.
That's right.
And that's just life, you know. But I want to get to a consistent place where I'm okay with showing you those things, and showing you the truth, and showing you the depression, showing you the anxiety, admitting those things. But I don't do it for you to feel sorry for me. I do it to show you that that's life, and that's real, and that's how it's going to be sometimes. But if you have the faith and the strength to fight through that and keep going despite of that, allow yourself to feel, of course. But after that, you'll be okay. So, yeah, man, those are mine.
Man,
yeah.
I, thank you. First of all, thank you. That was powerful, and I appreciate it. I think thinking about all those layers of when I don't get to share it, when I don't get to talk about it, when I have to hold it in the role, like when here's what I know. Here's what I know. I'm learning how not to spend so much time comparing myself.
100%.
Because I look at your stuff and I'm so amazed. I'm like, oh man, I gotta figure out how to get that lighting right here, because this light is a little bit too bright. How do I'm trying to turn the light off and down. I'm like, what's going on? Like I got I'm like, what's going on? Okay, I need to change the tone of this. His light's not working. It's the wrong light tone. Like I in my mind, like right while you're talking, I'm like, that's amazing lighting. I need to figure out how he gets that lighting. Like I'm like the story, right? Like your setup. Like when I see the setup, right? You got your mic there, you got the camera there. You're just and when I was getting comparison mode, I'm never happy.
Yeah.
When I get in comparison mode, I just want to celebrate other people. Like I'm so juiced to hear your stuff, and I'm like, and I'm always like, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. And I get into that mode, and part of me just wants to be like, hey, can you teach me? More than anything, I want to just come to you and be like, hey, Will, can you teach me what lights you're using? Can you teach me like how you set your camera up? Can I because I want to learn. I want to get better. I don't want to.
And I'll gladly show you that, brother. Easy. Man, we'll have a separate conversation. You get my number after this, and I'll give you the game. It's nothing.
Man, well, you're doing amazing work, and I think you're helping people. And I hope that more people hope they tell you that how it impacts them. And I think that one of the things I see with the young people I work with, I had a young man out of the blue to me the other day, and he was just like, he just graduated high school. He's going to get a car in about a month. He's about to get his license. He's like, I just can't believe it, because he and our relationship almost disappeared because I was giving him some corrective, words, and he was mad. And I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you, brother. You're saying one thing, you're doing this. Like, I don't want you to. You don't owe me nothing. But if you say you're trying to graduate and yet you're not showing up to school, that's not inaccurate. That's an accurate thought process based on what you're saying, right? And he said, I just want to thank you. He out of nowhere, he just Branch, I just want to thank you for all your support and for keeping and pushing me. And I think that sometimes, growing pains don't feel good, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
I think when you see somebody, I saw one of my young men, hadn't seen him in like 3 months. He had a sprout session over the last 3 months. Like he literally sprouted like 4 inches. I'm like, dude, what happened to you? Like over this last 4 months, when you see it, sometimes when you see the growth after, it's a celebration. But he was like, man, I've been having my knees been hurting, like the pain along the way. People can't see the pain, right? They don't see all the stress and behind the scenes and the am I gonna make it to the end of the payroll this season? Like all the stuff, they don't see all that, right? And I think I want to be sharing that, especially with people running nonprofits, right? Because that's the work that we're trying to do. Is like, how do we help these in this system that's not designed for our kids to succeed all the time? How do we help them navigate? So, and thank you, brother Will.
Man, thank you for having me, man. These are the type of conversations I enjoy. It's dope, man, because I get a chance to connect with, again, dope minded people and like minded people and people that are in the same walks of life as myself. But also it gives a chance for people to hear the realness behind the content, the realness behind the brand and the person, because I want people to hear that, because I don't always get a chance to share it. So I'm thankful for you to have me, man. I wish we could have did this longer, man. You know, and
man,
I got an extra 20 minutes if you want. I got an extra 20 minutes.
Well, I think, one thing would be really beautiful is just if there's, what message would you say to a young person who was where you were in high school, middle school? What message would you say to a person who was trying to figure it out right now, who may hear this, may somehow see a clip of this, may be following you but never tell you that they're following you? What would you say to somebody who's thinking about this mask, right? Because I tell people, we're not here to tell people they shouldn't have masks.
Yeah.
We're saying in this work, do you have one person in your life that you can go and get real with and take the mask off? Or do you go from house mask for family, friend mask for friends, sports mask with their back, like work mask, like you got all these different masks, and never do you get to just be like, not on.
Not on.
I think we just need that.
Yeah. And again, man, I remember saying something. I said, we all deserve a place where we can feel safe in our life. We don't have to be strong all the time. We don't have to try to save everybody else all the time, but we can be the one being saved for once. Right? We can cry if we want to cry. We can laugh if we want to laugh. We can be corny if we want to be corny, and not have to worry about, let me straighten up. Let me, we don't have to do that. You know what I mean? And we all deserve that, man, because I think that's where the depression and the anxiety comes in the most. In those places, like you said, we got to have 8 different places to be a different person, and then we got to remember to stay in character the whole time we're there. And it's just like, that's a lot, man. That's just a lot to keep up with. But what would I say to that person? I would say that it's okay not to have it all figured out. In that, I get that you may have some big dreams and big goals right now, in high school, in middle school, whatever the case may be. I get that. And I'm happy that you have these goals and these dreams and these things you want to do. And I'm going to support you regardless of those things. But I hope that you don't get so hung up on what you want and what you're dreaming for and what you're going after that you're never receptive to the things that God may have in store for you. Because your plans and the things that you want may not align with what He wants. Right. And you may miss out on so many blessings and so many gifts and so many things because you were so hell-bent on this thing that you didn't even see that there was a path so much better for you over here. And the crazy thing is that you may end up arriving at the same thing you wanted, but it wasn't going to be the route that you wanted to take to get there. And so that was it for me, because and I would say that because I remember being in high school, I played sports. I wanted to play sports. I wanted to be in sports all my life. I wanted to do that. And I could never stay out of trouble. And I got that taken away from me. So as you may know, when you have something stripped away and you feel like that's all you are, you're lost. You don't know what to do. So then you start to turn and discover other things about yourself that you never even knew existed. So then I discovered the writing, I discovered the speaking, I discovered the passion for this. And that same feeling I used to get playing sports, I get it now from that. Yeah. I got the same feeling. Yeah. I just got to it a whole different way. And so, but if I would have been so hell-bent on still trying to play sports, and I'm 25 now, I'm still hell-bent on that, I would have missed my blessing. I wouldn't be here with you. I wouldn't be impacting the people that the DMs I get every day about, helping people not kill themselves and all of these different things, I wouldn't be able to do that work. Because I was so helping I wanted that I ignored what God said He had for me. So that's what I would say. And it won't be pretty, it won't be perfect, it won't be how you planned it. You know, and I get that you wrote it down in your pretty little journal and it sounded good on your vision board and all of that, but it won't be like that. But that doesn't mean that you won't get there. So yeah, that's what I would tell them. That's one of the many things I would say to them, man. And I, you know, and I know it'll go through one ear and out the other at 17 and 16 because it did for me. But then when you actually start dealing with it and living it and seeing it, and then you come out of that storm, you'll get I was saying. You'll get it. So yeah.
But it's a seed, right? It's a seed. It gets planted, and sometimes it stays dormant for a while, and then every once in a while, the right amount of water, soil, pressure, all earth, sun, heat comes in, right? And then it's like, whoa, where did that come from? Well, it's been germinating underneath the surface for so long. For so
long, you know. Like I know you probably often had those moments where you were like, man, I remember my mom told me that. And we may never admit it to her that she was right. But they planted seeds in us when we were 13, 14, 15 years old that we didn't understand. And that we didn't understand what they were, you know, what was going to sprout in us later. But now we get it. And same thing for those, you know, those young men that you and I get a chance to work with every day. So
there it is.
Yeah, man.
Ooh, we just went to school, man.
Yeah,
thank you,
heavy,
brother
man.
Will.
That was heavy, man.
Thank you. First of all, thank you. And will you tell folks how they can follow you, where they should check in you with your work, where are the best places? And we'll put it all in the show notes, but let them know.
Yeah, man. Instagram is my favorite. So Will Z Tidwell, Will ZeeTidwell, like you said, it'll be in the show notes for you too. Twitter, same thing. Will Z Tidwell. Neighborhood TikTok, Neighborhood Hero 96. Those are my main three. Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are my main three platforms that I spend majority of my time on. So yeah, please follow me, connect with me. Say you heard me on the show with my guy, and man, let's just stay connected. I'm always open. I respond to DMs. I'm not bougie, so please reach out.
Right on, brother. Well, we will be doing that, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here with us. And you know, folks, if you want to make a mask, you can do that. 100kmasks.com, anonymous on your own. But please, I invite you to talk to a friend. Ask them what is some stuff that they don't normally talk about. And I imagine you're going to get a chance to recognize that you're not alone. And that's the main purpose of this campaign. So for the Will, thank you for making time today. And thank you all for being a part of the Taking Off the Mask podcast.
Thank you, man. Love.
Peace. Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie. Editing, videography is also by Ryan Louie. Graphics by Kelly Wong. And a special thanks to the team at Ever Forward, Vanessa Cortez and Kevin Romero. And I'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast. As we hit this 1 year anniversary, we hope that everyone who's been a part knows that they're a part of the Taking Off the Mask experience. And we look forward to you being a part of it as well. If you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe, and share. And we look forward to us continuing to offer conversations that matter. Take care. See you soon.